Hey guys, welcome to the Cozy Writing channel where I record daily and upload weekly and you get to see me write a novel. That's literally what I'm doing this week. This week is a weird in-between week. My novel I just completed and edited the hell out and busted my butt to get it done before the end of the year is off to my editor, and I'm in that strange period of what do I do now, I guess. I don't expect to hear from my editor till next week at least. I expect him to take this week to just read the story and digest it before he starts pulling it apart and then getting back to me. So this week is start number 2 in that series. Now, I spent a lot of my Christmas break home with the kids. And there wasn't a lot of work getting done there because A, the holidays are crazy, and B, I have 2 young kids, and so there's just no work getting done there at all. So I spent a lot of it in my head. Like when we sit down to watch a Christmas movie that I've seen, I don't know, 1,000,000 times before, I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking about what the next story is. What I've got so far is I want to keep the dual point of view. My previous novel, Dark Witch Rising, is a dual point of view between 2 main characters. One is the witch, or the young woman who's discovering that she's a witch, and the other is a local cop who is coming at things from the opposite end of the spectrum and is kind of like the reader's voice. He doesn't know what's going on, so things have to be explained to him in a natural way. So I like keeping that dual point of view because it lets you see 2 sides of the same story. But what I want to do in the second book in the series is, well, obviously it needs to keep going from where the first book ended. So we have our main character whose name was Kate, but one thing that has come up in starting to plot out book 2 is her name needs to change, and I'll get more into that later. But so we have our main character. I'm just going to keep calling her Kate for the time being until the name does change. So we have Kate, and she has discovered that she has magic and she has no idea how to use it. And she's also discovered that there's this whole community of rural witches around her in this very small town in Pennsylvania. So I need to continue that story, because if I don't continue that story, it's like, what's the point of even writing this book? So Kate needs to continue on this path of finding out who she is, discovering more about the magic, and also the seed of this, she needs to figure out what her mother and grandmother did in the past that's effing her up now. They did something, and things are basically going very wrong in Kate's world. She's waking up in places that she doesn't know how she got there. She's starting to hear voices. She's seeing more shadows, and none of it makes any sense to her. And she assumes this is just what happens when you're a witch, or when you come into magic and you discover this other world. But she's starting to get the feeling that this isn't actually right. Like, this doesn't feel right. So that is her main quest in the story, is following that path, discovering, again, who she is, what her past is, but also trying to figure out this kernel of what's not right, and why isn't this right, and why isn't this happening to anybody else. So that's pretty straightforward. I know kind of the arc to that, and I know where it starts, I know a few points in the middle, and I know where it needs to end up. So when I'm outlining, I just need to keep those in mind and make sure that I'm hitting all the right spots and making sure they follow the right arc. So basically no big deal. The other thing I wanted to do, since I wanted to be a point of view novel with a dual point of view, is I wanted to explore more about what happened in the past. So my dual point of view novel is basically going to turn into a then and now novel, where I have some chapters that are in the now, which follow the Kate character, And then some chapters that are in the then, which go back to her mother when her mother was a teenager before Maggie had Kate. And basically unraveling that kernel at the same time that Kate's unraveling it about what happened in the past that's effing her up now. And it's a little bit harder to pull off. I'm really excited by the prospect of what this means for the plot, but it is significantly harder to make sure that what Maggie's doing and learning and mistakes that she's making line up with how Kate is unraveling the puzzle on the other end of the story. That's the issue I'm running into. So I've started outlining the story, and my version of outlining is actually basically like a first draft. It's a very condensed version. I'm not writing everything out, but I'm writing a lot of stuff out. I used to do the bullet point way of outlining novels, like this happens, then this happens, then this happens, but I don't know. It never really came together for me in my brain the way I want it to, so it's dumb. But what I end up doing is I end up staring at a blank TV and just kind of watching it in my mind. And that way my brain just kind of automatically fills in the natural pieces, like the way they move or what they're carrying or what they're doing with the things in their hands. It's dumb stuff like that. But that's the part I have the hardest part with when I'm writing. I need to visualize it. So staring at an empty TV or computer screen does that for me. So I spend a lot of time looking at a blank TV and just working in my head. And then I have my plotting software that I've already cut things into chapters, and I know which chapters need to hit which point of the story. Like obviously chapter 1 is the hook, chapter 2 is the inciting incident, stuff like that. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going through and I'm trying not to work in a singular timeline right now. Maybe I'll have to switch that later if I want to keep going and not maybe lose a train of thought. But right now I'm going back and forth. And I say I'm going back and forth. I'm on chapter 2 right now. I've only gotten that far in the outline process because it takes me a while because it's basically a condensed first draft. So I'm working on chapter 2. That chapter 2 is a Maggie chapter. It's a past chapter. So we've got a 15-year-old going almost 16-year-old in 1995 in high school, and just navigating what that means for her as a teenager just coming into adulthood, the conflict she's having with her mother, and then also navigating what it means to be the daughter of a witch, but having no magic yourself, but being surrounded by basically other witches in the community. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now while I'm waiting for Ty, my editor, to get back to me with notes and questions and comments and conversations about the other novel.